Good morning. It's 6 o'clock a.m. and I have zero to no motivation to go to work today, which is a typical workday for me. Except for this week has been just that much more difficult with having the executives from the corporation at my house, per se. And yesterday I got a phone call right before 5 o'clock from the school president saying, Millennial Steve, you need to be ready to deal with them in the morning as soon as you get here. Again, another reason why my first question to GPT was, why does no one want to work anymore? And it said, it is rooted in several complex interrelated factors shaping the modern workforce. And again, it keeps giving me the same thing over and over again when I ask it similar questions. Like the AI understands that we're in a no-win situation with hourly work. Hourly work is a failed institution in this country, yet we all have to participate in the failure because there are no other options for lower tier jobs. And I'm just going to read you guys off the list really quick of what it says, why no one wants to work anymore. And it's simple: burnout, stress, stagnant wages, a lack of growth, and freelance work, and there's no life work balance. If you're down there making the minimum wage, your your goose is cooked. Let's just put it that way. And it does feel that way. Every day that you go to work, you get there, you do the same thing, you tell the same jokes, you see the same people, and at the end of the day, you leave and you go home to a place that you don't want to live either. It's like being in hell. It's really what it comes down to. There's no escape. There's nothing fun to do. And if you're like me, your credit card or your debit card declined yesterday for something that it shouldn't have declined. And when I went and I looked at how much money I had $30 in my bank account. With as much money as I make, I should never have $30 in my bank account. It was almost like looking at being in an endless spiral of failure upon failure, only to end up with just $30 in your bank account until Friday. And you tell yourself, this isn't real. I worked too hard to have $30 in my bank account, but yet there it was. And you can't. I looked through the charges on my debit card, and they were all basic life charges: food, rent, gas. That's it. There was nothing that would I would consider to be elaborate or luxurious. It's just basic life. But when every trip to the store costs between $50 to $100, and you come home and you don't have anything, I've eaten the same thing every morning now for what day is Wednesday? For around 5 days, I've eaten the same thing every morning: ground turkey, and it doesn't taste good. Anyhow, with that said, let's transition to my two talking points. I've got 6 minutes worth of the talking to do, and then that will be the morning video. So, I will be talking about the disconnect between effort and reward and why people are leaving the workforce. So, to get into my first one, and this is something I discussed with the self help woman yesterday because she adamantly disagreed with me on this particular point. Despite immense effort, workers often see little to no reward from going to work. And this is why I mentioned the $30 in my bank account. I work really hard. I work a lot of long hours. I didn't have a day off this weekend. I had to work both days. And yet, the immense effort that I put forth in my job, the cost of living, basic survival is bringing us to the brink. Our paychecks can't withstand basic survival. What does that say about our paychecks? They're not really paychecks. These are the wages that are paid to slave workers. If I have $30 in my bank account right now and I'm paying for transportation, rent, and food, and that's all I have left, how is America doing it out there? What are you guys doing? Have you turned to crime? Has every single person that's listening to me right now, have you turned to crime in order to get food? Have you had to start doing things in in order to pay your rent? I mean, I just don't get how everything is so expensive and the paycheck will not grow to cover a comfortable life. I'm not an unskilled worker. I would consider myself a very highly skilled worker. For what I do and what I bring in, the stagnant wages are an incredible. This should be the reason why every single American right now calls their a job and says, I'm not coming back in until you pay me a living wage. And as we well know, every retailer, from Kroger's to Target, brought this question up to their shareholders about raising wages to living wages. And every single wealthy person laughed at the idea of paying people what they need in order to live. Because if people are happy, if people have resources, why would they come back to a job out of necessity? Once people have enough to take off their shackles, they won't come back to these miserable jobs. And that means that the record profits every single year won't be there because any corporation will shut down a business that isn't bringing in record profits. All of these companies that have gone under this year because they're not profitable were created initially to create unrealistic amounts of money for the important people while exploiting to the nth degree the people that have to get up every morning and go to jobs that they hate. Do you think an executive wakes up every morning and thinks, God, I have to punch the clock again at 8 a.m.? No, they don't. They think about their 2 to 3 months of vacation every year. They think about the ridiculous amounts of money that they get paid. On top of their salaries, they get bonuses for all kinds of things. They get bonuses probably from cutting workers because every time you cut a human being, that means it's more profit. That's why they run these corporations on skeleton crews. That's why it's so difficult to work in retail because someone who hates their job more than you do is going to call out. And they're not going to have someone else who's going to be able to come in. And this was my biggest pet peeve with all retail jobs is there was never enough people to actually do the work, and that was intentional to keep the money spent on wages low because you're a resource. To them, you're no different than having to buy toilet paper for the bathroom. You're a necessary thing in order to run that business. And just like the toilet paper, it gets dirty, it gets used, it smells, and you have no choice but to wipe your rear end with the proletariat. Talking point number two, a combination of low pay, lack of respect, and dead end jobs pushes people to opt out entirely from work. When you're the toilet paper every day, regardless of where you go, because at your aptitude, if you're working warehouse, customer service, any job that's public facing, you know you're the toilet paper. You know you're going to get used, and you know that the lack of mobility is something that you have to expect. The lack of upward mobility is built right into modern jobs because they don't want you becoming expensive. In fact, the longer you stay, the more expensive you become. They don't want to have to pay into your retirement fund. They don't want to have to pay you benefits. They don't want to have to treat you like a human being. Every aspect of being a low tier worker is the most humiliating thing that you will ever have to do. Because remember, every day is the worst day of your life when you're not living comfortably. You're going to a place that you do not like. They have made it very clear to you from the moment that they hired that you were toilet paper. And eventually you were going to get used up, that there wouldn't be a side that was clean anymore, and you were going to get flushed. That's the American worker. The modern worker is every day he has no job security. You're just waiting to hear the flushing noise as you're all dirty and you're sinking down into the bottom of the toilet. And then somehow you come up on another side, you're just clean enough, and you get wiped again and then flushed again. And you multiply that by your entire life. And once they put you into the pine box, there isn't a whole lot of human being left. There's a humiliated soul that's laid to rest. And I hope there's no such thing as reincarnation, because if I have to come back as toilet paper again, I'm going to have a real problem with that. All right, in toxic positivity, it doesn't get much more toxic than that, than realizing that you're human toilet paper. But it is what you are. If you're a low tier worker, the world is here to exploit you, to wipe with you, and to tell you that you have no value, that you're paid nothing because you're worth nothing. You will own nothing and be happy. That's the worst part, is that it's becoming more true every day. You will own nothing and you will be happy. You will live your life in debt until the end. You will never be able to touch anything that your prole hands shouldn't be touching. Even Susie Rotten Crotch seems to be far in the distance. I can still see the rotten crotch, but it's getting further and further away as it goes over the horizon. Have a good morning, proles. It's Wednesday. It's time to work.